frame me in a picture. Sharpie horns on my head. Every rumor like a scripture. They repeat what they were fed. Yeah, I'm walking through the whisper. Let them burn me in their tails. I keep receipts in my ribcage. Every scar, every DD. Call me the villain. Paint me in black. Blame every crack in your heart on my back. But when the curtain's falling and every mask is gone, you'll see the villain was the hero all along. Yeah, I'm the villain. I'm the hero all along.
I think it's horrible. It's a shame.
T.D. Rowe, a firing instructor at a local gun range, sums up the reaction of everyone to the massacre of young children in Connecticut.
Just touch the trigger.
She also expressed the view of the majority of gun advocates who said the shooting is proof more people should be armed.
If a teacher that had some kind of system that was knowledgeable, that maybe had a firearm in the school to defend the children, it could have stopped them.
The rifle being fired is a Bushmaster 223, like the one the gunman used to kill innocent children. It's similar to the assault weapon killers used in the shopping mall in Oregon and the movie theater in Colorado. It was among the assault weapons banned in 1994, but the law expired in 2004. Anti-gun advocates want to renew the ban. Would you support any kind of gun controls now after this?
No.
None.
None.
Lynn Hotstetler keeps a gun in her home for protection.
I don't think you can legislate or protect against people who are bent on doing something like that.
I think we need some stronger anti-gun laws.
Chris Caldis is a newcomer to the range and among the few willing to support tougher gun laws.
I don't think you should be able to get that kind of a gun that easily.
A military-grade weapon on the streets of Chicago is simply unacceptable. And this kind of shocks the consciousness.
This week, we were allowed into the heavily guarded police gun vault, which holds 80,000 weapons, most of them seized from street gangs. Here, we saw evidence of a deadly evolution of the arms war among gangbangers. Old six-shooters and automatic pistols giving way to rack upon rack of lethal assault rifles. These are the same type of cartridges.
If anybody wants to buy one, they can go pretty much any flea market that.
All right, let's get to it. All right. Well, I want to welcome you all to the stream, Red Hill Podcast. I want to talk about a few issues that have happened. We had two major cases. The transgenders and sports bill.
I'm on a podcast, okay?
Hey, Todd, can you go ahead and...
You're on an open mic, too.
Oh, sorry, dude. I thought I killed it. Sorry.
And and so the transgenders and sports bill, birthright citizenship with the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court accepted the assault weapon ban here from Illinois, Villamontes versus Cook County. I brought a few friends with me to go ahead and talk about it. All right. Todd.
Hey, dude. Sorry. I thought I muted my mic here.
No, we got you. All right. So we got Todd Vandermeer with us. Freedom Steel. We have Joe Lanou. We have Steve, Range Minded Podcast. Starting with Steve, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, like Corey said, I'm Steve with the Range Minded Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things Second Amendment. You can find me YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, rangemindedpodcast.com. I try to put out a show weekly. I do the best that I can, and I love all things about your rights and our freedoms.
It's kind of hard to do when we got jobs, right? YouTube money is not coming in for us, so you know.
Big goose egg.
Todd, tell us who you are.
Former NRA contract lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru, as I've kind of earned the moniker. I would, I'm a heavy equipment operator by trade, and so lobbyist by accident. And I would go into committees, and I have this knack for being able to put the law into common vernaculars and make it explainable and understandable. And so I would go up against lawyers and prosecutors and high priced guys in committees in the Illinois General Assembly and tear them up. And, they're not gun guys. So with all of that, I spent 30 plus years lobbying the Illinois legislature. And with all of that, thank you, sweetheart. With all of that, decided that I was doing a video, a YouTube channel. I'm building ranges at the club called Freedom Steel. I'm a bulldozer operator that we're using heavy iron to make ranges so we can enjoy our rights. I have now become the president of the largest gun club in Illinois, the Aurora Sportsman's Club. And guys started asking me to do content about 2A stuff when I retired. So I started that. Into you because of my exploits as a former NRA lobbyist, and got to know Joe a little bit over Twitter because he started following me, listening to me, paying attention.
He was badgering you. Just go ahead and say that,
me to
Todd.
speak on a couple of his podcasts. I think I'm the only guy to call in on his show from a cruise ship. So,
that is true. Yes, that happened.
Retirement has its values.
Okay. Just remind us, Just remind us that we're the saps that have to keep going to work.
Yeah, well, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but thank you very much, gentlemen.
Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
I'm Joe Lanou. I host the Grand Jury live stream we do every Friday night on X, Rumble, and YouTube. We take 5 volunteers from social media platforms, X in particular, mostly, and we seat them as a mock grand jury. We show them 5 cases of police use of force each Friday night, and we ask them to deliberate and tell us if they believe the force is reasonable or not. It's great fun. You can catch us on YouTube. It's at Joe Lanou, as you see on my handle here, on all platforms. But give us a subscribe, a follow, and let me know if you want to be a juror. I'm always looking.
Thank you, Joe.
Just kind of get me kicked off the jury, Joe.
I don't know that you'd be a good juror, Todd. Be honest with you. I have a tendency to pull people that have some sort of expert knowledge, and I'll tell you why. We've made the mistake with a police officer once, and once that person said, "Hey, I'm a cop, and this is what I think," the jurors no longer deliberated. They just waited for that person's decision, and they followed them. So we like the deliberation. That's the magic of the show. Love to have you on as an expert witness anytime, though, Todd. And I've got one more thing before we get started.
Yep.
I thought your name, Todd, was for the killdozer. And you're telling me it's because you build ranges out of bulldozers. I think I'm going to call bullshit. I think killdozer is the inspiration for your moniker.
Actually, he's probably looking for it right now.
You can show me what you want. Killdozer.
I've got one in the back. I've actually got a killdozer model on the back.
Right to your right.
I know you do.
That's great. That's great. With all the stuff that's going on in it, we had landmark decisions. I can't remember right off the back what the names of those cases were. I like to call them by the names. But then we had the Bruin decision. That was 2022, I think it was, with the Bruin decision.
Yep.
Now we have birthright citizenship, the contextuality with that. Then you have the transgenders can't play in sports. Well, they can play in sports, but they got to play with their biological sex. But I do want to ask the question. Anybody can answer. What is the path to the Supreme Court? How long is that? What does it look like? How does it have to go back and forth? We can start with you, Todd.
It's wide and varied. So Viramontes is a case that has a final determination out of the Court of Appeals. The difference about Viramontes is that Viramontes does not have a circuit split on the subject matter. the Supreme Court likes to take final cases. They've been flushed through the trial court. They've been flushed out at the appellate court. And especially when there are conflicting rulings on the same subject at the appellate court level. What I think bodes badly for the anti-gunners is there's no circuit split yet on the semi-auto issue. And for the Supreme Court to reach down and pluck out and put up an issue that does not have a circuit split, I think is telling as to what they're going to do. That, you know, based on what they just did in Wolford and how they reiterated the test in Bruin and clarified parts of it, and what they said in Hamani, and even what they said in Rahimi, I think that, you know, we were all thinking that they were going to can everything, waiting for either Cheeseman out of the Third Circuit, New Jersey, or Barrett out of the Seventh Circuit, because Barrett has a full record. The decision from the appellate court in Viramontes is 2.5 pages long. It's basically, you guys didn't do anything to build a record, therefore we're going to rule this way. And that's literally what it says. It's 2.5 pages. But I would go back to Clarence Thomas's comments when they denied, I think it was on our case in Barrett, or the combined cases. And he said, if the Seventh Circuit is going to continue to outlaw common rifle, we need to address this. Thomas had a dissent from cert there. So usually the court likes flushed out cases, and they like them where there's a split in the circuits. Doesn't mean that they've really said they don't like cases on an interlocutory status, which means you're arguing over preliminary injunctions and the like, unless it has some very overreaching kind of, you know, impact. So that's how I take it. But we are, you know, as much as Viramontes doesn't have a record and there's not a lot there, we're there. I'll take it.
You know, the path to the Supreme Court is like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll pop? You know, you don't really know. Depends on which Tootsie Roll you're licking. But in theory, everything is designed to keep it down to the original jurisdiction, closest to the original jurisdiction as they can. And what Todd's talking about, if it goes to a circuit appellate and you have a split decision, in other words, it's not a concurring, it's a panel of judges, so they don't all concur, then that leaves that there is a question. And when there's a question, you'll see the Supreme Court get more interested in that, because at the end of the day, Supreme Court is the decider, right? When they talk about anything's repugnant to the Constitution, it's null and void. Well, the Supreme Court's the nose. It's what sniffs it to be able to say. It's the deciding factor. So, and what Todd's explaining is a multitude of ways that litigants on both sides can navigate the federal court system through original court's jurisdiction, original court's rulings, go to an appellate. And you could have an appellate that turns it's a unanimous that the original jurisdiction was correct. This is very difficult for a case to continue up. You have the constitutional right to continue to appeal, but you don't have, you're lacking merits or building a case as Todd's talking about. But cases without merit won't go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court it's not going to hear everything that's petitioned to before them. They're going to assert it. But right now, I think that they are looking, and Todd, you're right, there hasn't been a split decision with the Bruin test.
Well, when I say that, Joe, you're right. There are splits within the panels. There's not been one circuit, the Fifth Circuit on this side of the issue, and the Seventh Circuit on this side, because what the court wants is they want harmony of the law across the country. And
right. But my point is this, is that you're seeing them do something different without the existence of contrary decisions, is what we'll call that. Is that they're looking for something, in my opinion, to reaffirm Bruin. You've had the Hawaii, the Aloha vampire rule that they had there. It's not Aloha. They made that very clear. we've been winning. Is my point.
Yep.
But I think they're looking for one, and I'm hoping this one out of Chicago could be it. They're looking for one that will let them say that we meant what we said in Bruin. It's a 2-part test. It's not real difficult, and that'll line up. And I'm gonna finish up with this. What that will do for all these other cases coming up, it's going to change how your original jurisdiction courts decide. It's going to change how appellate courts pick them up. Many of them will say right off the get, original court jurisdiction got it right because it was within the Bruin test. And you'll start to see a lot of these cases fail without ever going to the Supreme Court. They'll die in the process.
And Steve, you got anything you want to say?
No, I do find it interesting that talking about the Villamontes case, how the Supreme Court chose to pluck that up and talk about it next term.
Once you guys start calling the name out, let's talk about the merits of this case. What are the merits of the Villamonte case?
The assault weapons ban for Illinois, right? So what I understand it. So
it's a semi-auto ban and a magazine ban,
and the magazine
very
ban,
broad based.
So it has sweeping consequences across the whole United States. At least the 10 states that are really squashing down on assault rifles, right? The scary black guns. So it's going to be very interesting, and that's something I'm really curious to read when they come down with the decisions, to see where both sides fall down. It's a big case. It has a lot of huge implications for
what was the original court's
generation.
What was this for original court's ruling on it?
The original court at the district court was fine. It fit within the parameters of everything. And then it got booted up to the Court of Appeals, and there were all kinds of supplemental briefing at the district court level. And when it got up, the county brought in all kind of experts to buttress their thing. And our side did not do that. They just filed briefs. And in doing all of that, the court said, you didn't bring anything in. They came up with this bullshit test in the Beavis decision, putting the burden at step 1 on us. And
Beavis is Beavis versus
Beavis versus Naperville was
another assault weapon ban.
A gun store that got shut out of being able to sell all the guns. It was another municipal ordinance, and it somehow beat everything else to the forefront because Naperville had filed their ordinance before. So Beavis went up. There were 7 cases consolidated, and Beavis became the controlling thing on an interlocutory appeal for motion for preliminary injunction. Our 4 cases in the southern part of the state got an injunction. 3 cases in the northern part of the state did not get injunctions, and they all collided, and they chose Beavis as the lead case. And so the problem is that in Villamontes, our side put it all into briefs, but didn't do a trial. And because of that, the appellate court ruled that we had not put experts or other testimony into the record. And our guys kept saying, no, it's all in our briefings. And so this is where some people differ. Mark Smith of the 4 Boxes Diner sits there and says, there were no experts in Heller. There were no experts in McDonald. This is a question of law. You don't have to do all this. In our cases in Southern Illinois, we went through a 4-day trial. We have a 7,000-page record. We were thinking they were waiting on our case because there's no other case in the country that has our record.
Yeah, but, and then I got you in 1 minute, but to add to a little bit, and I think with the history that comes with this Villamontes and Cook County, but I know that trying to think of the year, but Cook County came up with that assault weapon ban years back, and it was after this kid was killed on the bus because some kid ran up on the bus and shot another, right? Well, yeah, the
Blair
kid was
Holt
killed.
thing. It was Blair Holt.
Yeah, Blair Holt. There we go. Blair Holt and Blair Holt Act, right? I think that's what they called it. But they brought that out of it, and they said, well, we're going to ban these assault weapons. All right, these dangerous weapons is on the street. But guess what happened? He wasn't shot with the quote AR-15 or the quote that they say assault weapon. He was shot with a Glock, He was shot with a handgun, and they used that. They used all of the public outrage, all of the public emotion to actually enact this, and that's what got the ball rolling. If I'm right on that, Todd.
Yeah, that was part of it.
So where's the
Yep.
case at now? It's a county, I think, right?
Yep, Cook County.
So Cook County is won the appeal, and the Supreme Court is looking to pull that up.
Yep.
Yep, they sure
That's
did.
amazing. They're not pulling it up to reaffirm it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I don't think so. I again, the fact that there's no split in the circuits across the country on this, and the fact that they are taking this on such a 2.5 pages. I mean, how many appellate court decisions do you see that are under 10?
I've never seen a decision under 10, be honest with you, much less a decision under 10, much less a record.
Right. So I think that I think this goes back to what Clarence Thomas said. And I think there's that. And I think that they're seeing Virginia, Minnesota, these other states full with it. And that somebody somewhere said, you got to nip this in the bud. And I think it finally reached that stage. Now, that's
I think, I think Thomas has been gearing for a fight for some years now. Every case has come up with when it comes to 2A, he's been very vocal about it. He has been pounding his fist about Bruin is the law, Bruin is it, and the test better be Bruin. And look, we're seeing success. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, we've seen them apply the Bruin test and send back and say the court's got it right with original jurisdictions. I mean, in my lifetime, I haven't seen courts behave this way when it comes to Second Amendment. But look, and there's a fundamental difference for those that don't understand with the Bruin test. Before, it was always third part, kind of the same test. There's always been a third part to it. And that's like, well, if there's a substantial risk to the public. So that's why the left in our gun grabbers, this is why they use somebody to get shot, a tragedy somewhere. And the firearm's really not even the reason the tragedy happened, but they'll use that as like, see, there's a public need. There's a public threat. This is a substantial threat to the public.
That's what they do.
Therefore, we can regulate guns any way that we want because the Supreme Court holdings have been that way. Bruin was a shot at the waterline to gun grabbers by taking that piece away.
All right, Steve, you got anything you want to say about that, about the subject?
Well, I was just going to say, it's hard to see the long game when it first starts. I mean, we go all the way back to the Caetano case and start talking about common use, and then Heller was a huge decision. And then once Bruin hit, I mean, all those, I mean, that was a trifecta of punches to the gut of the gun grabbers. And hopefully the court sees it this way. I mean, I see generations of hope through the light of the tunnel here. So I really hope it works out the way I think it's going to work out.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I'm glad to see that it went in there. And I know that I did Beavis versus Naperville. Did that get attached to it? I know the PICA Act.
No.
Did that get attached to it? Are they just hearing this that case? You okay?
Yeah, no, allergies, dude. Just I'm trying not to sneeze into the microphone and let you.
He gets choked up when he thinks about Bruin. I'm the same way, Todd. I get choked up when I think about Bruin too. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, even more with the Bruin test. But go ahead.
No, well, the Bruin test is actually Heller revisited because so the funny thing is, I was on a cruise with my wife in 2008, and we had just landed in Grand Cayman. And when we did, my phone blew up. And I sat there, and it was Ray Long from the Chicago Tribune. And Ray sat there and said, "So what do you think, Todd?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, the Supreme Court." "What are you talking about? What'd they say?" And he said, "Well, they threw out, the gun ban in D.C." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I gave my opinion. And then I got back on the cruise ship. And when I got back on the cruise ship, I got into their business center and I read the decision, 154 pages. And I ended up doing an interview with Cam and Company back when we had all that stuff going on. And in doing so, there are a couple of things that jumped out at me. And if you go to page 65 of Bruin, and I used to be able to quote this by heart, we know of no other enumerated constitutional right whose core protection has been subjected to a freestanding interest balancing approach. The very enumeration of the right takes out of the hands of government, even the third branch of government, the power to decide on a case-by-case basis whether the right is really worth insisting upon. A constitutional guarantee subject to future judges' assessments of its usefulness is no constitutional guarantee at all. And they have been ignoring that since 2008. And when 2010, when McDonald and NRA v. Oak Park came up, they didn't like it when it got applied to them. And so since 2010, they have been ignoring, and all Bruin did was reestablish that there's no interest balancing here. It's text and originalism, and this is what there is. And
I think Bruin was more forceful, though. I mean, they literally modified the test to 2. They took away any court's ability to weigh out the substantial risk to the public at large, which is the hat that the gun grabbers hang their hat on. Because
you're right, Joe.
Right. I mean, I think Bruin was forceful, and I think we see a Supreme Court that's ready to put their foot down and say we meant what we said in Bruin. I think we're in good shape.
I will tell you, so today, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals released an opinion called U.S. v. Rose, in which an individual who was subjected to a mental health commitment back around 2010 came in possession of firearms currently. And they charged him. Somebody, for whatever reason, they charged him. And Easterbrook, who wrote the abhorrent opinion in Friedman, who has been, he was on McDonald's panel. I was in the courtroom when he looked at Steve Hallbrook and said, "Counselor, why don't you just save your time? We all know this ain't the last stop." And so I have no love for this arrogant a-hole. But today he issued an opinion, and he said it Rahimi, Hamani, and Wolford, and kicked it back down with there needs to be an individual diagnosis or finding that this person is dangerous. Wolford is already having an effect. When you can get a guy like Easterbrook, who his flaunted Heller thumbed his nose at Bruin, because he was on the Barnett Beavis panel that we had a year ago. When you can get a guy like him to be forced into saying this and kicking some, he said as applied, which is a fair deal for what's going on with this Rose case. But if you can get, that tells me that the Supreme Court is starting to land some punches in putting down and enforcing what there is.
I've said this week, and I'll say it again. I think this is one of the most, I think this is the best, most constitutionalist Supreme Court we've had in American history. I can't think of another out there that has really weighed out individual rights stand supreme. Doesn't give a damn if it's a substantial threat or somebody says it's better working order if we take this right away from you. They've stood 10 toes down on individual rights. And what does the law say? And what does the Constitution say? I think we have one of the best Supreme Courts in American history that's employed now.
Let's get Steve in there. Go ahead, Steve. You got anything you want to say?
Yeah, man, I totally agree. Yeah, it's been generations, right? The Second Amendment's been under attack since the 30s or even before then, and it's just we've been kicked around, right? Since even the most recent verbiage that we're seeing out of the Supreme Court. Off topic or outside of their outside of the rulings, just them talking is so refreshing. Like Joe was saying, it's good to hear at least some common sense out of people that hold the balance of liberty for you and me. Like, it's a big deal.
You know, I agree, Steve. And what nobody's talking about is the pre-deprivation language Gorsuch put in Hamani. That language there. So he talked about how the process works, and he was going, you know, and in the way he went after the marijuana or the are you an illegal drug user 922 G8. He talked about, at least over here, you're afforded a criminal trial with everything. You have to, and he likened that to a couple of things. He's got about a paragraph where he cites pre-deprivation twice and in footnote 6. That is going to be huge to taking down the current style of red flag laws. I think that we will all feel a lot better if, when it comes to a challenge to whether or not any one of us are dangerous by a neighbor, school administrator, X, whatever, that, you know, we at least
Todd, let me pause you. I want you to back up. Explain what you're talking about, the pre-deprivation.
So the problem is that what red flag laws
in plain speak, what does that mean?
It means that they get to take away your rights before you get your day in court. And somebody administratively gets to adjudicate you, they get to judge you, and you're not there.
Yep.
You get no chance to put up a defense. You're literally tried in absentia.
Let me say something right quick, Todd. And that's one thing that, if you're following along and if you have to listen to what we're talking about how they can take away your rights, your Second Amendment rights. You go to a mental institution, you just want to check in for a day. I'm not saying that, you know, that's a good thing, but you're having an issue, then, you know, you come out and you're good. Yeah. In Illinois, they say you have 5 years and then you have to go see a doctor, but they will take away your FOIA card. They will take away your concealed carry card and all the other stuff. Or even more.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that, Corey, because you have to list all your firearms. You have to surrender all your firearms. You have to surrender all your ammunition, and you have to surrender parts.
We do have a question. You know, I want to see about this question. I have a question. Do you think it should be some type of protection on ChatGPT and AI following the school shooting in Florida? What do you necessarily mean by that?
Yeah, I need a clarification on that.
Yeah, that's kind of confusing. That we need type of protection on GPT and AI following the school shooting in Florida. We'll come back to that one, please, if you can, in the comment, clarify that one, what you're talking about. But yes, like Todd said, it's even worse. They can take away everything from you. They want you to turn it over. Then they came back and strengthened the language. And this is happening throughout the whole United States. Instead of giving away your rights, right? I know I talk about Illinois a lot, but then it was just stand by. It's coming to a state near you. Maybe not Texas, but you know, Joe might want to brag about that. But they always come up with some quick way. And I'm gonna share this, and then I'm gonna give it to Steve, and then we'll get back into the conversation. I remember the very day, the first time they tried to pass an assault weapon ban. And Todd, you were there. You probably backed me up and remember this. But they were trying to pass an assault weapon ban the first time that I came up with, that I really got involved with. And Moms Demand Action was sitting there. And Todd was testifying. He said, hey, you all think this is going to stand the muster? I will see you in court. What did they do, Todd? They laughed, they giggled, they snickered in the background.
Because part of my testimony that day was that, you know, if you want to keep going down this road, Chicago wrote the NRA a $1.2 million check. If you continue down this road, you will be sending my lawyer's grandchildren to Harvard.
Yep. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, it's crazy when even if we just look at the red flag law side of it, right? We're looking at 4th and 5th Amendment violations, which they're just happy to step across. And then even if you didn't do anything wrong. Like somebody, let's say your ex-girlfriend decided to mess with you, and you're not guilty of anything whatsoever. Well, you're already found guilty in the court of public opinion. You're already your reputation is already marred, and you're gonna have to carry that baggage with you the rest of your life, or at least a great deal of time. And it's repulsive. But the gun grabbers, the anti-guns, or whatever you want to call them, they're not worried about. They don't care about anything other than the control of the firearms. They're not concerned about children's safety, because anytime that comes up, anytime there's a school shooting, they're grandstanding on the coffins and they're using it to raise money. If they cared about the real issue, they would come at it a different way, a more compassionate way. And that's what's frustrating. And the amount of leverage that they have on both sides of the aisle at times is unfortunate. And
well, the problem is that they are AstroTurf funded, and they've got a blank check literally from Bloomberg, and we don't have anybody throwing $50 million at us for elections.
God, I wanted to say something about that. Remember the blank check that you just said? I remember when I went down to Springfield, they got buses down there. They go down on my own dime. They had shirts, they had buses, they were there for committee meetings. They rallied. And this is when I said that a lot of people that are on gun rights, they want to defend their rights. You're not getting outsmarted, you're getting out hustled.
Yeah.
Because they show up.
In the political world of guns, I've told everybody, if somebody comes knocking on my door for asking me to vote for candidate so-and-so, man. But when you walk one block each side of your house and you talk both sides of the street and you talk to your neighbors, they're more apt to listen to you and ask you why you have a sign in your front yard for so-and-so, unless they're just a hardcore any other guy. I'm kind of like an anomaly. I've been a union guy since 1987. I'm a construction building trades union guy, first a laborer, then an operating engineer. And I've been a conservative Republican my entire life. And 30% of my union was conservative Republicans. I know that because when I ran the government relations department, we analyzed our membership against the voting rolls.
Yep.
But if you talk to your neighbors, you can win enough votes to sit there and make a difference.
You're right. Let's get to this question. All right. So Fremont said, well, there was a kid that used chat AI and chat GTP and asked, when is the best time to do a school shooting? And AI was told, I guess he meant told him exactly what to do. And we'll go back to the other question that he had. I'm gonna probably give it to Josie. He's back. I think he was trying to say, I have a question. Do you think that it should be some type of protection on Chat GPT and AI following the school shooting in Florida? I don't know anything about the school shooting in Florida that he used Chat GPT or AI or anything to direct them how to do it. I haven't heard anything about that. But if anyone knows anything about that, you would have to probably send a link for us to look at that type of story.
I mean, well, what would you do? You outlaw Chat GTP, you make some law that you can put somebody in jail if they break it, or if somebody does do a school shooting and they use a Chat GTP, put an enhancement, you can kill them twice, in the states that do that. I don't know. I think the way I look at things, and a lot of things may be different than others, but the world's always been dangerous. When mankind could arm himself, he armed himself with the sharpest, biggest stick out there. And we've been arming ourselves ever since because it's a dangerous world, and we should understand that. And I think a child going to Chat GTP for a school shooting, I think we got the parents have some responsibility in that. But I'm not looking for more laws to restrict my rights. Exactly. I'm looking to unwrap my rights and be free.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, check me if I'm wrong, but can I just go to like the Army surplus store and buy a bunch of field manuals and and learn
Well, they're
about
not going to
tactics.
teach you how to do a school shooting, but if you want to know the best time for a school shooting, you can do surveillance on the outside. You can watch it yourself,
Yeah,
figure out
I
when
mean-
there's target-rich environment and go.
Well,
Yeah, there's information already available in a bunch of different ways. Like you're saying, I could do surveillance pretty simply. It doesn't take a lot. The avenues of information are different now, sure, but it's still information that anybody can get or utilize.
The problem is the will. You have a will to go shoot innocent children. I mean, there's the problem. There's no solve to that. Keeping you ignorant so you don't understand how to do it. Well, it's not hard to figure this out. I think that I'm not into bubble wrap. I'm not gonna wrap myself in it or people around me so that we're all 100% safe and fat and life's boring.
Dilly.
Yeah, and so to kind of break it down, I think the question that he was asking, should there be some type of limitations on it? Like you said, if you come up with another law, what is that going to do? And I remember, Todd, if you remember the same thing, we were at that committee meeting and they brought one of the parents in. I think she had lost her daughter to some act of violence, and she looked at them. I don't know if you were there or it was before you, after you, but she looked at them and said, "What is another law going to do?" Yep. You all are coming up with these laws. And she looked and she said, "Okay, you remember that?" And she said, "What is another?" This is a woman that lost her child, and said, "What is another law going to do?" And this is what they try to sell to the public. She didn't get very, very much notoriety for it, but I remember it. You remember it, and they come up with these
fit their narrative. And you have to understand the unfortunate thing is that for those of us in blue states, this is how they run their committees. I mean, it's often they give the other side 45 minutes. Hey, we're running up against the deadline. You're limited to 3 minutes. There's no honest intellectual debate about this stuff. But to the question, and I agree with Joe, but the question is, the only way to answer that is with more surveillance, that there's more reporting of people making questions, getting kicked up to Big Brother. I'm all in favor of repealing the NFA these days because we're going to need something more than 556 and 762 because Terminator was not supposed to be a blueprint. It was supposed to be fiction. All right?
It seems like we move closer to it.
I think enough pelvic shots to stop that damn robot. I'll take a 5.56.
Good. I want my M79 and 40 mic.
All right, let's take a look at some of these videos, and then we're gonna get into the other court cases and whatnot.
Separate ruling, the Supreme Court upheld state laws that ban transgender athletes from playing on girls' teams. In a unanimous vote, the justices ruled that such bans do not violate Title IX, and in a 6-3 vote, also declared the bans against transgender girls in Idaho and West Virginia do not violate the Constitution. To unpack these, the U.S. Supreme Court issued 2 major rulings today.
What do y'all think about that? That's just the beginning of it and whatnot. We talked about birthright citizens. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But looking at how the Supreme Court came down to this actual decision and whatnot. Anyone want to take the lead on that one?
I think Justice Alito and what he asked from the bench in oral arguments, does sex matter? How do you define a woman? I think that was the telling part of the case. And you have a guy like Brett Kavanaugh, who wrote the opinion, who coaches girls' teams. Kinjani, whatever her name is, Justice Jackson, couldn't answer the question or wouldn't answer the question.
Ketanji Jackson, yeah.
About what a woman was at her confirmation hearings.
She's not a biologist.
To 99% of the world, this is common sense.
Well, in this decision really boiled down to it's there's no constitutional protection for a trans person to be treated like a woman. Women have protection, but we have protection by gender, by sex, not gender, by sex. They really just ruled kind of like the Dobbs decision. We're not saying it's right or wrong. We're saying states get to decide and let states do what states do. This is not a federal problem. It's not a federal issue. And that's exactly what Dobbs was. Dobbs didn't say you can get an abortion, just said that states had the right to decide. It wasn't an issue that the federal government was going to get into or had the authority to get into. And we see the same thing with this one. I agree with it, though. I think it's the right decision.
I do too. I think a lot of us do. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so Barbara Ehart, she's an Idaho legislator, and she has been stalwart on this issue. She used to coach college women's basketball, so she's connected to the sports side of it all too. And she's always been amazing. Anytime I can call her name out and give her props, she's awesome, and she has been great for the state of Idaho as far as liberty is concerned. So I'm happy to see this get cooked out in the Supreme Court finally.
I don't think you see any change. I think your blue states will still allow it. The states that have banned it will. Yeah, I don't think you see a shift in it. You might see a shift on the Title IX aspect, where I think it did open the door for the federal government to withhold federal funds for anyone that is not adhering to Title IX, because that's the remedy for the government to do, right? You can't put somebody in jail for violating Title IX, but you can withhold federal funds. So I think it does open the door for that. But at the end of the day, immediately it's not going to change anything. You're still going to have dudes in dresses playing sports in all the Democrat-held territories. I just said territories, states.
Oh, John.
But the hostile held territories of the United States. Hostile territories, I meant.
It's ma'am.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Dude, I don't get it, because when we had to kill a few hours in Seattle, them was some of the ugliest people.
You know, I should have grabbed a clip, but me and the wife was watching something this weekend. Oh, it was driving me up a wall. But we were watching something this weekend. It's called This Is Poly Life or something like that. So they talk about different, poly couples and everything, right? And you had one man that had 4 wives and 18 children. That's a bit excessive, but okay. Then you had one guy that had 2 wives, and they made it, I guess, called a throuple. But the very interesting one was the pink-haired lesbian. No, she wasn't a lesbian. Tattoo artist. She had a boyfriend and a boyfriend. Now, one of the boyfriends was a transgender male, and I don't know how you sprout out a outie, I guess I should say. I don't know how they're going to try to restrict me or anything like that. But it was interesting to say, then she was already married to one of them. And they start talking about, well, we're a kitchen table poly couple. I'm like, what is that? And it means that you sit around a kitchen table and talk, whatever. They sleep in the same bed. And me and the wife was dumbfounded. And they came up with all these different sexualities, all these different isms, all this different stuff. How you expect us to actually honor this when you all you can't narrow it down? You got 101 different sexualities and genders.
I didn't know HBO was still running the Real Sex series that you and your wife watched over the weekend.
We wasn't watching that, brother. But
a little warm poly couples.
Yeah, it was something. It was like, and I was sitting there, and then they would come up with the different transgenderisms, and I was like, I know 100% that they just didn't vote for Trump. I just know they didn't. But pink hair here, and they fit the. Well, let me put it this way: they fit the description. All right. You got anything else y'all want to talk about? Because I'm gonna roll this.
Well, that was a very titillating conversation on your choice of television.
I'm glad I witnessed it live.
Yeah, I know, right? Joe's gonna say something in the space. I know he is.
This has upheld birthright citizenship, striking down President Trump's executive order that declared children born to people in the U.S. illegally or temporarily are not American citizens. In a separate... Let's start with birthright citizenship. Majority decision was a major blow to President Trump's agenda, but the decision came down to different interpretations of the 14th Amendment. Can you break that issue down for us?
Sure. the majority of the court on this issue, 5 justices, very consistent with what all lawyers and judges had basically believed for several generations, said that the language of the 14th Amendment and the court's precedents were clear that all people born in the United States, with very limited exceptions, are citizens of the United States. That's the birthright citizenship status quo. Several justices in dissent on this issue, 4 justices, in fact, took a revisionist position that despite the fact that this had seemed settled for many years, that the limited language in the 14th Amendment creating an exception actually created a broad exception that meant that people who were born here, whose parents did not have firm allegiance to the country, had not established a domicile here, did not necessarily pass on citizenship.
All right, birthright citizenship. Well, the path to that, and wow. Anyone want to take that one first and see? I see you smile on Joe's face. Go ahead, Joe.
I think it's the right decision. The government's argument was that laid upon allegiance. Well, you and I, most of us haven't pledged allegiance to the United States in any official capacity. But the part they couldn't get over, the reason the government didn't want to argue this part of it, which is the jurisdiction thereof. You can't get past that. So if you're saying that if I come here, as Joe comes to the United, I'm a foreign national, right? I'm from Honduras. I come here on a visa. And when I get here, am I subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Yes. If I drink and drive, if I commit a crime, they'll arrest me because I'm in the jurisdiction of the United States and I'm subject to the authorities here. I can't get around that. So if you say that, as the 14th Amendment reads, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, if you say that being born here is not enough, you're not a U.S. citizen, then you're saying that that person and the other people are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And that's absolutely not true. You can't get around that. And I don't want to go too long, but the other aspect of it is we assume that only people, foreign nationals, enjoy birthright citizenship when we all do. Every one of us. If they changed it in the Supreme Court ruling, then when you go get your passport, how many birth certificates do you need to take? Yours is no longer good enough because it only says you were born in the United States. You'll have to start taking your parents or maybe even grandparents. So I don't know how far back you have to go to be considered a U.S. citizen at that point. And the other argument that they laid upon, and they're not wrong, is that the 14th Amendment was to solve the problem with freedmen and the children of freedmen, slaves, that they technically did not have citizenship. But the problem that everyone's ignoring is that prior to this time, nobody technically, it wasn't a clear-cut way to prove your citizenship. I mean, you could, in some states, it requires some sort of affidavit that you'd been someplace for so long. So it really wasn't clear prior to the 14th Amendment. How do you prove that you're a U.S. citizen? So it goes beyond just the freeing of or establishing the status of freed slaves. It kind of went to establishing a status for all people in the United States. What makes you a citizen? You're born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. I think the Supreme Court decision was right. Do I wish birthright? I think it's gone sideways. I think there's some other things that Congress can do about it. But short of an amendment, the Supreme Court decision was absolutely correct in my opinion.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that, you know, I listened to Megyn Kelly today, and some of the guys on there said that, you know, the 14th Amendment is stupid. And, you know, without even explaining why it was put in place in the first place. And I think some people, they eat that up. And some people are mad at Cohen. Some people, Amy Barrett, Cohen. Some are mad. Some are praising. Surprisingly, there were some people that were praising Clarence Thomas. Not the usual people. Let's put it that way. Then you had some. I don't know about Gorsuch, but there was some rumbles that said that, hey, you know, the people that voted for it, or the justices that voted for it, they went against President Trump, or they went against the Constitution, or they went against this. Steve, you want to say anything about that? And then we go to Todd.
The only argument that I've heard recently, well, today, that was brought up. Maybe you guys can help me sort through this. Is the foreign invaders, right? So people are saying, well, these illegals are coming across the border and they're foreign invaders, which doesn't qualify. What's your thoughts on that? I guess Joe would probably be the easiest one, but anybody could jump in on that one.
Well, but they're not foreign invaders. Everyone here, when we talk about illegals, somebody that crossed the border without, and we don't know they're here, that would be someone who's an illegal. Mm-hmm. People that came across the southern border, whether you like it or not, the administration let them in. They got status. They may be an asylum. They have an asylum status, on a parole status, waiting to get to court to determine their asylum status, whether they can permanently get it or not. People here everyone here has a status. So it's not the foreign invaders. If they'd rushed the border and we attempted to stop them and they pushed their way into California and Texas during this, then maybe you could say that foreign invaders. But the foreign invaders go back to the War of 1812, right? British and Canadian troops are down here in the United States and they bring their wife with them and they have a child. That child's not a U.S. citizen. That's a foreign invader. But the foreign invader portion, to me, it's all hyperbole. Everything I've heard about it, honestly, is hyperbole. You just don't like it. And I get it. You don't like it. But the 14th Amendment is the only thing. It doesn't just say birthright citizenship. It's also what gives us equal protection under the law. 14th Amendment, aside from the first 10, is probably one of the biggest ones we have out there, and maybe the most controversial. But it is an amendment, and the words say what the words say. And I want my Supreme Courts to do that and not go up what they feel. If not, you'll have them inventing some shit like you have a right to privacy, as they did with Roe versus Wade, which didn't exist.
Right.
Todd, now that you guys anything else to say, Steve, but we'll go to Todd. You got anything you want to say about it?
Joe's got it right. I like Kavanaugh's approach better. But if you're going to be a constitutionalist, you got to be a constitutionalist across the board. And I think we're a little bit better at that than the other side is. That, I think there needs to be a very healthy debate about the 14th Amendment and what all the caveats are. But Kavanaugh said Congress codified certain things, but Congress can't just repeal or nullify a constitutional amendment. Are there some strings to attach it? If you take Joe's discussion about status, if you're in a Homeland Security, CPD, whatever hearing, one way, you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. I don't know how much clearer you can make it. Now, I was on the border in 1990 and 1991. I got called up for Desert Storm, and I got assigned to JTF 6. And back in the day, that was part of a different part of the task force in Texas. I was in Arizona, but where the Marines shot that goat herder. And, I've seen the border immigration issue up close, and I saw it in 1990, and they were doing all the same stuff back then. I saw Mexican cartels and whatever better armed than we were. I saw Mexican federale helicopters trying to flush out our OPs to tell the coyotes and the traffickers where to go to get around us. So I've got some long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I have some experience with this, but I will tell you that, it's a problem. Trump's got a better handle on the problem, and I appreciate everything he's tried and done. But part of the problem that we need to be cognizant of is you can't just use executive orders to overrule the Constitution. And I think our side is a little bit better on that, because the problem is that the other side is going to be in power sooner or later.
Right.
And think about what they can do. I completely like that we zeroed out the tax on suppressors and SBRs and all that. but you've already got the other side saying they're going to take it to $2,500 or more if they get back in power. There's up until I would say Obama, there was a yin and yang that it was mutually assured destruction. But now I think it's, one side winner take all until the other side's destroyed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would love to know that freedom here in Illinois that we can get suppressors and whatnot. But that
might be not as far off as you think.
Okay,
but you know what? If we don't go to court, we don't, you miss 100% of the shots we don't take.
Exactly.
And, Trump yesterday dedicated the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library. What did he say about the man who steps into the ring?
Gotta hear it. What did he say?
That's a great quote, by the way. I can't remember the whole thing, but land in the arena counts.
Yeah, and I took a lot of grief for a lot of years being an NRA lobbyist for some of the things that happened, but you come down here and spend 6 months away from your family and we'll talk.
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets for the work I put in, but and you know what? I don't necessarily like all of the decision, and I haven't read all of it, but I understand it. I understand where they're coming from. And if we're going to believe in the text of the Constitution and the Second Amendment, we have to believe in the text of the Constitution in all parts. It's not, I'm in for this. When it suits me, I'm in. I mean,
you can't cherry pick it.
The difference between us and the other side is that when we get a decision we don't like, we may howl and pound our fist on the bar a little bit. We don't talk about packing the court, although I think we ought to put a bill up to make the Supreme Court 15 and let the Democrats vote against it. It's good if it's good when Trump's not in office. Why isn't it good today when he is? You want 15? We'll give you 15. Hell, we'll even let you pick 2. That's 6 more. We'll get 4 more. We'll let you pick 2. How's that? Your 2 picks, we won't object. Ain't gonna like that. But if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all.
Yep. Let's roll some more clips.
When it comes to the transgender athletes, what does it really mean as for or state? Does it change anything here?
States that prohibit trans women from playing interscholastic athletics don't have to do not have to change anything. Nor for now do states that permit transgender women from playing women's sports. Right now, there's no argument that it's a constitutional or statutory violation, whatever choice the state makes.
I'm gonna say something that's controversial, but I've always said it. I said it should let all of it happen. It should be able to take steroids too. I just let it all happen.
They're gonna do it full on, right?
Yeah, full on. Just let it all happen. Let them take steroids. All right. If you die, you die. If you don't, you don't. No, but no, in all seriousness, no. I understand that, a lot of these young ladies work hard for their records, work hard to get to the point that they're at, only for someone to actually cheat. And it basically, let's be real about it. It's cheating. And so I'm glad for that decision from the Supreme Court. I'm happy with the Supreme Court. I think
it's not going to stop anywhere it's happening now. It won't stop dudes and women. It won't stop. The states that have passed the laws have passed the laws. It's not going to change theirs. States have gone the other way. The Supreme Court says you can go either way you want.
Right. It is nothing more than a states decide. That's all it is.
It's a Dobbs decision, right? Hey, it's your business. You guys figure it out. My name's Paul. That's between y'all.
What's the Dobbs decision?
I know what it is. That was the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
It just referred it back to the states. The states get to decide.
Well, no, Todd. No, Todd. What they did was they took away a woman's right to choose. That's what they did.
No.
No, they took the federal government's right away to choose and gave it
I
to the
know, right?
states.
No, what they did was they said that it's up to the states to decide what the law is.
Exactly.
It's not up to us to make a law out of whole cloth or fabricate a right out of whole cloth.
Here's a question for you, Todd. What right did Roe fabricate out of whole cloth?
Part of it was the right to privacy, which I think is something, because in Illinois, Section 6 of the state constitution has a right to privacy within it. I've done a whole memo on it, which
but the U.S. Constitution doesn't have any right to privacy.
The U.S. Constitution does not. Whatever limited right to privacy is found in the Fourth Amendment under the search and seizure portion is to what you have.
That's for criminal proceedings. But see, here's my point. This is why the decision was right. States do have rights to privacy in their state constitutions, and states have passed laws that give you certain rights. Federal government doesn't. The Constitution doesn't enshrine them. Roe versus Wade did. Their literal argument there said that the founding fathers didn't mention it, but they would have. They would have mentioned it if they didn't think about it. Is what that Supreme Court held.
I would think if they had a snapshot on some things, they probably would have included a right to privacy. I wonder what it would look like.
That's what the Supreme Court held too, but it's not written there. It's not there. So what?
You are absolutely right, Joe. I'm not arguing. They fabricated in the federal Constitution a right to privacy that outside of the Fourth Amendment didn't exist.
Fourth Amendment is only for criminal. It's only for criminal search and seizure. It doesn't apply to everything. And I'll tell you how we know this. Fruits of a poisonous tree. As a police officer, I obtained something without a warrant, and I needed a warrant to get it, then I can't use it against you. It didn't say you never had it. It didn't say it never existed. It just says I can't prosecute you using this because of the fruits of the poisonous tree. I did not have, I violated your civil rights by obtaining this evidence. So there is no right to privacy in the Fourth Amendment.
Well, I'm going to disagree a little bit, because if you go back to this decision that they just released on the geofencing, all right, that they went to a company and they needed a warrant to get this information. I'm thinking that we can, now we all know, and you're seeing all these First Amendment auditors on YouTube going around filming in public places, and cops and all kinds of people are getting all upset about that. Right. And the whole flock camera thing is bringing something up. I think you're right. There is no general right to privacy within the U.S. Constitution. There are certain aspects that if law enforcement wants to get in there, there are handcuffs or restraints on law enforcement to get there. I wonder if with this geofencing thing, all right, and I'm going to take this to a gun rights side of things, that when I see administrative asks for information on individual gun owners to state police agencies to gun shops, can we apply this geofencing law to say, if you want that information out of private business, you're going to have to get a warrant because this is protected. So I have a narrower view of it, but I completely agree with you. There is no general right to privacy contained within the U.S. Constitution.
Well, even with the geofencing, there is nothing that says that law enforcement couldn't gather geofencing data. But if they don't do it properly, then whatever they find there, they can't use. And anything, and that's why it's called a tree. Fruits of a poisonous tree. All the fruit that's born after the offense is also taken out, because without violating the right, you would have never gotten there, is the theory.
Right.
So the geofencing is the same thing, and we're going to see it with flock cameras. And I think that's really what comes down with flock cameras, is that there's no crime, there's no offense or violation of constitutional rights for the government to put cameras on public streets. Just like there's no violation for you and I. What your eyes can see, you can take video of and photographs of. There's no violation of recording your license plate as you travel on public roadways. That's what your license plate's on your car for. The issue and I'm happy that the geofencing thing come out, because what it also says is that now if law enforcement wants to access this flock stuff, in other words, we're looking for Todd, we don't know where Todd's at, so we're going to track his license plate with flock as he drives through town, which we can do that. Now I need a warrant. And with the warrant, you can't just write a blanket warrant, like give me everything. You got to be very specific, and you've got to have probable cause. You're going to have to convince a magistrate on the low end, probably a court of record on the regular end for this type of information. You're going to have to convince a judge that more likely than not, there's a good reason why I'm pulling Todd's stuff, and it has for criminal reasons. But it goes back to my original point. There's no right to privacy outside of criminal action. If it's not criminal, the government can buy information.
I generally agree with you, Joe. I think, yeah, but that's what, Dobbs created that right out of whole cloth.
Dobbs corrected it. Dobbs corrected it. And I think it's the right decision. Once again, I think we have one of the best Supreme Courts sitting in American history when it comes to individual rights and what's the government, what scope of power does the government actually have? We've seen Supreme Courts going back, especially between 1900 and probably 1970. We've seen courts weigh your rights against kind of the public need and all of our well-being as one.
I think in light of what they said in Bruin, or they started in Heller, all right? I think we need to take that quote from Heller, but we need to expand it to a whole lot of other stuff that says, why is all their interest balancing when we're discussing these rights? There should not be, what's the old adage? Better that 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man goes to prison.
That's
I mean, we value the rights more than we value the outcome.
Who's this? Easy Does It says that. I'm sorry, I'm stepping on top of you, Todd. I was going to say something about this comment. Easy Does It. You're right. Probable cause is needed for a specific instance that any of us are describing.
Yeah, he was just reaffirming what you were saying and whatnot, because he said you're 100% correct in the last one, but he was just reaffirming what you were saying. I just put it up there so everyone can see it.
Well, there's no probable cause needed when you want to request information from an FFL. ATF can do it. The states can do it.
Yes.
There's no, and I think we need to change. I mean, because what we see in Illinois is we see them, because we have our own background check system, we see them saying, Joe, here's Joe's name. We have these transaction numbers on these dates at your store. We want to know what he bought.
Hey, you know what,
Todd? And that's a different thing. And I think administratively, just like I think that Rahimi, Hamani, and Wolford, taken as a trifecta, really put the hammer on administrative adjudications.
One thing about that, what you were just saying, I was thinking about it. Our friend Dexter Taylor, same thing happened to him, to where the ATF pulled the files or pulled numbers in New York, right? Pulled the files and numbers and said, what did you sell them to? They said, well, we sold it to this guy. Stays in the city of New York. And then they came together with the probable cause and said, he's got these dangerous guns, these assault weapons, as they may say. So they raided his house and whatnot. Steve, I want to give you a chance to go ahead and talk. If you want to talk about that, go ahead. If you want to go ahead and address what we were just talking about.
One of the things that worries me about Dexter's case is it wasn't just FFLs that they had requested records from, but online retailers as well. And that, I mean, that makes me nervous, even though I've known, and we probably all kind of knew that was happening anyways, but it's unsettling. And then just have the ATF to say once they got there, hey, this is not a federal case. We wash our hands of it. And we know where Dexter is now because of the decisions of New York State or New York City. It's super frustrating. And I'm hoping that with some of these Supreme Court decisions that maybe there'll be some reprieve for Dexter. It's still a long, hard slew for him, though.
Well, there should be, and that's where I developed a theory on right to repair. I don't know if you followed that, Steve.
Mm-mm.
All right, so let me give you a short tutelage, because he's the guy that was making his own Glocks or something.
That was building his own AR-15s in New York.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. So if you look at the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, Zell 1 and 2 said you have the right to acquire firearms and you had the right to maintain proficiency in training. So, Joe, if we have the right to maintain our proficiency in training, would you not say that we have the right to maintain our firearms in good working order?
Right, but he wasn't convicted of making the firearm. He was convicted of failing to register the firearm.
Yeah, the paperwork.
Well,
look, the way the law is written there in New York is shifty. It's kind of like the damn NFA tax stamp. NFA doesn't say you can't have it; just say you got to have a stamp, and the federal government gives it to you, and they have strings attached. And that's what they did with him there. It wasn't unlawful for him to build the gun. It was unlawful for him to build it without a permit. It wasn't unlawful for him to be in possession of them. It was unlawful for him to be in possession without a permit. So it's just, honestly, it's just not as clear cut as you can't build guns.
Well, that's a couple of parts I didn't know about that case. But to go on, if we're just talking about building stuff, so if I have the right to maintain my firearm, then I have the right to repair my firearm. If I have the right to repair my firearm, I have to be able to get the parts to do so, because firearms are mechanical objects, just like your car. They require maintenance. Things wear out. Okay. So if I have the right to repair my firearm, do I not have the right to build my own firearm if I can acquire all the parts and I have the skills necessary? Yes.
I think you can go on history and tradition of the United States that manufacturing or homemade firearms are part of our tradition and history. I think there's no problem with
Joe, that's step 3, because step 3 is if I can build my stuff, then if I have the skill, tools, and ability, can I not manufacture my own firearm for my own personal use? Not commercial sale, but for my own personal use. And if you go back and look at the Springfield Armory of old, not the current guys, but they still use a similar logo, it was cross cannons. Why? Because Springfield Armory up until 1791 was largely making cannons. They didn't start making small arms until about 1790. And during the Revolutionary War, to exactly what Joe is talking about, we were using small manufacturers, blacksmiths, and imports in order to field rifles or muskets to the Revolutionary Army. And the funny thing about that is, where does the term lock, stock, and barrel come from?
I was just going to say that, yeah.
It's because you had lock makers, you had stock makers, you had barrel makers, which were largely blacksmiths. And then you turned around and you put them all together.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go by Bruin's absolute test of tradition and history, the tradition and history of our country at the time of the founding was we were making a good chunk of the guns. Where did the Kentucky long rifle come
Hey,
from?
look, I was going to say the Kentucky long rifle was built by your local blacksmith at Clockworks. They put it together, and you cut the wood and put the wood on it. You built that gun yourself. There was no manufacturer of the Kentucky long rifle. That was homemade.
There was a Pennsylvania version of a rifle. There was the Kentucky long rifle that earned its fame. All right. And that's the text, tradition, and history. And you know what? I think that, and that's why in the Illinois case I was involved in, we went after the right to repair to prove a novel, like, look, we're out here. We're not just doing the Me Too shit. Because how many times, Joe, have you read a Mickey brief that go in or a case that goes in and it's Me Too? They're just copy, paste from 5 other lawsuits. It's like, you know what? We need to get better at this. This is one of the reasons I got on the NRA board is I'm pushing that we don't need to do the Me Too stuff. We need to be innovative in how we think and how we attack legislation and litigation in a 3D context.
Let me address this right quick. So Easy Does It, he said he was going to the gun range with those firearms as well. If you're talking in reference to Dexter Taylor, those guns never left his house. Right? Never left his house. All he did was build them. He kept them in there. He was trying to learn how to develop a better firearm or what he wanted to do. Never lets out. Only time they shot him.
Remember, he never shot them. Law enforcement shot them to prove they were functional firearms for his conviction, for his prosecution.
Yep, first time I ever fired was by somebody else.
By the police. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Corey, I got to duck out for a minute. I don't know what it's doing by you, but I got thunder and lightning, and I got my truck windows open. I'll be right back.
Oh, hold up before you go. Everybody wants to know what's on your shirt. What's on your shirt?
Yeah.
Are they aliens?
Minions?
Minions.
Yeah, the little minions.
Oh, it's their overalls.
Go roll your windows up. I'm disappointed. I'm going to talk about you while you're gone. I got to say shit about you now. While he's gone, I really like Todd. Anybody's not following, what is it? Still Freedom Steel on X. He's a great follow, and he is a deep bitch of knowledge. He'll get you in the weeds on court cases for sure, but I like the hell out of Todd.
Yeah. Terrible choice in apparel, but yeah, he's knowledgeable.
He's at home, man. He's comfortable for the podcast. He's comfortable.
Yeah, that's what
he never went to the range.
Yeah, he never went to any range. Never shot him. And like they said, they had to prove that those firearms were functional, and then that's when they shot him.
Now hang on. He was in good. Now Dexter was in good standing. I guess in New York, you have to belong to a gun range, like a country club, because it's so special. But he belonged to his local and was in good standing with his local gun range. I don't know what all that entails, but he never shot any of the firearms that were found inside of his home. Dexter was a nerd. He wasn't building because he wanted to shoot them. He was building because he could build them. He was lathing his stuff out in his New York apartment. He also built furniture, built his own tables. He turned his own table legs in his apartment in the basement. He's just a geek, man. He didn't care about shooting him. He wanted to finish it so he can buy some more parts and build a next one. That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he never shot those weapons.
Yeah, and you know what? That's Easy Does It, because that's a great transition. And I think I kind of asked it or hinted towards it. The relief that Dexter may see from these Supreme Court cases and actually what can happen. Maybe we can see, some stuff getting overturned. Joe, what do you think about that?
Snopes out of Maryland, and I don't know where that's even at now, but Snopes out of Maryland, that law is very, very similar to Dexter, the New York law. In order for Dexter to get relief without getting it directly for himself, having it heard in the appellate system in a court, which he'll finish his sentence before that ever happens. In order for him to get there, you're gonna have to see a law that's almost damn near the same that the Supreme Court strikes down, and then that decision will have further reaching. It'll reach other states, and the way that works, and even then, it won't be automatic. It would just be his attorneys and other people that are in the same situation. They would file federal suits And since there's been a sweeping Supreme Court decision that was the same kind of law, then they would see there's a lot of relief there, even the federal government backing up on that in defending it. So there is no short version of him getting out besides his case going up. Snopes, like I say, Snopes hasn't been picked up. It hadn't been certed, but they didn't kick it off the table, which is kind of unusual. It's been on the table, I think, for 2 sessions now. But the Snopes case out of Maryland, that Maryland law mirrors the New York law pretty damn close, and I had hope for that, but like I say, I haven't seen them kicking Snopes down the road. I'd like for them to take this.
Joe, on that, I think that if you read Kavanaugh's dissent in Heller 2, he said registration was unconstitutional. If we get that out of Viramontes, then I think that fast tracks what you're talking about.
Yes, if you had a case that struck down registration is unconstitutional, then that would be a way for Dexter to get some relief. Unfortunately, we won't see, like when they had same-sex marriage, right? One day, if you wanted to marry a dude and you were a dude, you couldn't do that. The next day, didn't need to do further legislation, nothing. You could show up there and get your little marriage license and be happily married gay. You could, because one case changed everything. You won't see that with gun legislation because they've come at gun legislation at so many different angles. The state has the right to tell you can wear it outside. The state has the right to tell you can wear it inside the pants. State say you have to register this. State that you have to take a class if you do this one. There's so many different out there that you're not going to find one case that's over that encompasses everything and says, hey, all gun laws are unconstitutional.
No.
And let me finish. But even in McDonald, Heller, and in Bruin, the Supreme Court hadn't said that all gun legislation and all gun regulation is unconstitutional. They're picking it through, and I think we're in good shape. But you won't find one decision out of the Supreme Court that's going to relieve 2A rights for every American in every state.
You're not, and that's why I'm advocating that the gun groups get together for a coordinated approach.
Yes.
Sneaky briefs, because what we don't need is every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinking they have a better way to argue this and throwing it to where it is just more spaghetti against the wall. And I've seen that in several court cases that have gone up. And what we need is a coordinated effort that Joe, you take this issue. Corey, you take issue. Steve, you take this issue. We're going to cut the pie up. And as we cut the pie up, we cover all this ground that we can do and get way more, coverage on the subject matter. There's people out there on social media, the internet, whatever you want to call it, who are sitting there saying that they think Kavanaugh is going to write this opinion to vindicate what he said in Heller 2. And in Heller 2, Kavanaugh said registration was unconstitutional. So given that, and Joe and Steve, I'll point this to you. If we knock out semi-auto and magazine bans, if we knock out registration, the only thing they've, in my mind, really got left are waiting periods and pre-purchasing licenses. And if we can get after those, what are they left with?
You got to go take a gun class from some gun instructor and subject yourself to that. I think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life.
I think that would fall under the pre-purchasing.
Kills me. It kills me that you have to go take a class before you can own an object. That's ridiculous. I can buy a car without taking a class.
Hey, I've always been. I sat in front of the Tribune editorial board many years ago, and I said, how about a 7-day waiting period for editorials? Nothing you have to say is that important. They all look horrified.
Well, that's a right you can't touch.
Well, that brings
freedom of expression. There's no qualifiers for that. It's not like your 2A rights where you've got to qualify for it.
But that brings up a question then. How did the FOIA card? I know that Idaho and Joe and down in Texas, y'all got all the freedom in the world. But I think for some of our viewers, if they want to, know a little bit about
retarded shit I've ever heard in my life, but I'll listen to the story.
So all right, so put the timer on to see if I can do this in 30 seconds.
Okay.
So back in 1960, whatever, after
1968.
all the bullshit of Kennedy assassination, everything going on, Daley, the original Mayor Daley, wanted something they wanted full-on registration and everything. The downstate guys in the Illinois legislature said, well, you can't register guns, but we'll do a card for the owners. And that was a compromise between the downstate guys who were going to be outvoted versus the Chicago guys and the mayor of Chicago. That is the shortest version of it.
Yeah. Steve, what's going on in Idaho?
Other than the weather's been ridiculous. It was like 30 degrees the other day, and it was 90 today. So I don't know. It's fun.
30 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, it was damn cold.
Dude, I was in Seattle last week, and it was, the wife and I took an Alaskan cruise. Corey, I don't know. I think I got on a call with Joe for part of it. Second one from a cruise ship. He popped up in my Twitter feed on my phone. Really? You guys are 30 degrees?
Yeah, it was cold. Yeah, I'm like an hour and a half away from Yellowstone, and there was a blizzard in Yellowstone. So it's so stupid. But it's other than the weather, because I could bitch about the weather all day long. I mean, I'm good at that. Things are pretty good as far as the legal side of Idaho. We sit pretty well. We have pretty good representation. My concern is, and I see this especially like in Utah, is the laziness or the apathy of the voter. Right, we're too lazy to hold their feet to the fire when it comes to things. And then you see Colorado end up losing a lot of 2A rights, and then same thing in Oregon or Washington. So that's one thing I always try and push is be the loud person that calls you representation whenever a 2A thing comes up. I'm really disappointed in my direct representation. I think he's a major FUD, but he won't take my phone calls or nothing. Like he's a special guy.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to. He's supposed to take your phone calls. I do want to say,
well, he chooses not to. I should say that it just goes to a staffer or whatever. Like no replies on Facebook, nothing.
Michael, Michael Hastings does that to me. He doesn't. He doesn't return.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to really get it. I'm gonna have to pin him down.
Oh, really?
We'll talk. But so let me tell you something easy. Does it? Don't nobody care that you got doggone freedom. That you went down to Texas,
free, eating barbecue. Life's good down here, easy. Good man. I knew I liked you from the get.
Don't nobody care, man. Nobody care about your freedom and everything, man.
All right. So, what kind of barbecue sauce do you like, Joe?
Well, there's where you've made a mistake. If you got to put barbecue sauce on, you haven't done it right. I like to flavor my meat with smoke and a little bit of rub on it. You do it right, you don't need barbecue sauce. I've got a jar of barbecue sauce in my pantry that I've had for probably 20 years. I pull it out every time I make a brisket. Nobody eats it. So I just put it back up. It's there for decoration.
So a buddy of mine who used to be a real pit master sat there and said, you know what barbecue sauce is for? I said, no, Jack, I don't. He says, after you've eaten all the ribs and brisket you can, when you need to slide that one last rib down, you lube it up with barbecue sauce so it will slide down.
Yeah, he's not necessarily wrong, but if you've got to put barbecue sauce on it, you've made a mistake.
Well, you made somebody spit out their chicken salad, and I doubt that Cody's.
Cody's eating chicken salad.
All right,
Cody's
so
like, get a rope.
So one thing I do want to think. So hypothetically, no, I ain't gonna say hypothetically. I'm gonna put it in the air, and I think it's gonna happen. This gets struck down, right? Villamontes v. Cook County gets struck down and sent and told that, hey, you need to give the people their rights back. Do you see Illinois trying to come back with some type of legislation to try and bar it? Right.
Depending on how they write it, absolutely. I think all the states will. I think depending on how, and that's why I think the amici briefs are so important, to not just regurgitate the same thing. Sit there and let's Joe take out common use. Steve, take out how they've been misapplying Bruin since the get-go, and Helen. All right. Corey, you take out dangerous and unusual, and we put this whole buffet in front of the court and explain to them, you have been silent for too fucking long. And every time you give, and we've all talked, Joe, you're used to judge's discretion. But the more discretion and the more wiggle room you allow these guys, the more that will come to your desk. If you want to stop the flow of bullshit, you need to put your foot down and say, and then you need to hold some guys accountable. I think one of the biggest mistakes over the last 18 months of Trump's presidency is that the House has not drug up the Chief Justice, Van Dyke, and a couple others from the Ninth Circuit and say, Justice Van Dyke, you wrote this scathing dissent about the misapplication of procedures in these gun cases. Tell us what's going on. Because if there's going to be impeachment of federal judges, it starts in the House. And you start with whether or not there's enough judicial malfeasance to warrant an impeachment inquiry. And you invite, because the current Chief Judge of the Ninth Circuit was on the panel when this bullshit went down. And now there was this round robin bullshit. And then you go down to the Fourth Circuit and you grab them. You pluck the decision from the appellate court, the 3-judge panel, before they could issue their opinion. Why is that? You want to go? You want to go nail some testicles to the fucking board? Grab these guys and start saying, "Oh no, we're going to have some, accountability, and you're going to tell us whether or not there's enough judicial malfeasance to warrant impeachment inquiries."
Go ahead, Steve. You had anything you want to say? Add to it.
What are the odds of that actually, taking place, though? Even if there was malfeasance, do you feel comfortable that the makeup of Congress would actually follow through with that?
I like Jim Jordan a lot, but I don't know. I mean, for all they've let us down on everything else, but if you don't ask, you don't. What's the worst they can say? No.
No. Yeah.
I mean, if we don't ask and we don't put it in front of them, because if you want to put that scare of every living dog shit in, you subpoena or whistle in the Chief Judge of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. You want to explain this to us? We're all ears. And it doesn't have to be the cringy dog and pony show that they always put up. It's just, ma'am, we just want to understand this because this don't make sense in the normal course of events. And Justice Van Dyke had a whole lot to say about that. So do you want to clarify? Because he's going to come in here and it's like, you know what, Your Honor, I get that there's a lot of deference going on, but, can you please tell me what was happening in the hallways? Tell me what you know that caused you to write this dissent, because what you wrote was shit happened in a back room. How do you know that? You wrote it in dissent. How? I mean, I can only wish. I can only hope.
Yeah,
That,
I would love to see it too. I just don't have a ton of confidence. Some of the congressional hearings that have been taking place, I've been surprised at stuff that they've been doing, which is great. I mean, I just listened to the one about not Mockingbird, MK Ultra that Luna was doing, which, I mean, that's ancient history as far as political is concerned. But it's still fascinating, and she's still holding people's feet to the fire, which I just thought was interesting. But at least there's a few out there that have the courage to call people to the carpet, which I do appreciate.
I think there are, and I think that it would be at least a gesture to a lot of the guys that have believed. I mean, look, I don't like everything this administration does. Sometimes I don't like the way they do it, but it's better than the alternative. And I mean, I can't be happier with Harmeet Dillon and what the 2A Civil Rights Division is now doing. Did you ever think that we'd see you can argue about a lot of stuff. As she has explained, there are different parts of the Department of Justice, and she doesn't necessarily agree with all of them. But you know what? That woman, she came to Illinois. She showed up to do oral arguments. She looked Easterbrook in the eye and didn't back down.
I do want to give out some breaking news.
Yep.
Mayor Mondami asked New Yorkers to set AC to 78 degrees. Yes, 78 degrees. I don't know if he's trying to save electricity or not. I don't know. 78 degrees. No, it's not really breaking news, but I just wanted to put that in there. It's on TMZ.
I have mine set at 73 right now. Mayor Mondami, fuck you.
I take it you're a rebel.
Beauty of democratic socialism.
I'll give you democratic socialism. I'll give you a first-on demonstration of it. You're not going to like it.
Start from the end first.
Yeah. So
see, I'm pro-choice. I think that if a child molester is convicted with the proper DNA evidence, then it's a 38 or a 9mm. That's why I'm pro-choice.
That's a great choice. Yeah, that's a great choice.
Wood chippers never complain about what's for dinner.
No, they don't. They eat all their food too. Yeah, they eat all their food too. But looking at Via Montes and whatnot, and the whole pathway to the court system, I want to say this to everyone. I bring up this topic, right? And I know sometimes I may not have the usual two-way advocate in the crowd, but it's important that you all learn this. Even if you wanted to fight a different law, not just two-way laws, anything, you wanted to fight something, this is the process that you need to go through when you form organizations, when you pull your money together and you start either at least paying for amicus briefs, or even more, you want to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court because you feel that that's something that you want to grieve or get some relief from.
All right. So, Corey, I completely agree with you. And, we've gotten to know each other over a while. Steve, you're out in Idaho. First time I'm meeting you. All right. So this is why a group of us formed 501c3 called SADC, Second Amendment Education and SADC, Second Amendment Defense and Education Coalition. Sorry, I got to think it through. And it's because we want to fund cutting edge litigation, and we've put a lot of money into the Illinois FFL lawsuit. this is what I'm trying to do when I got on the NRA board, is to move the needle and not do Me Too bullshit. I'm sitting there trying to say we need to be on cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you want to see cutting edge litigation, I've been trying to roll rock uphill on a bunch of stuff with administrative adjudications. And I think
Listen,
that,
Todd, I want to be a part. Whichever way I can help, I want to be a part. I don't trust me. Whichever way wherever you need me at, because I wherever you need me at, because that's one of the things is, I mean, I've learned over the years. I've gotten to know you over the years. I've learned over the years about this process, about the pathway to the Supreme Court, or even the Ninth Circuit, Seventh Circuit, or whatever lower state judge you have to talk to. And I'm so interested, and I became intrigued with it because a lot of people yell that there's an injustice. This is an injustice. You say how? Well, and they don't really know how, or they come up with some excuse or emotional bullshit. I say, all right, you want to move the needle on something? Well, let's see about getting some real legislation that's passed. Let's see about making some type of real change in your neighborhood. Let's see about, because everything we're governed by laws, whether we
so
like it.
Let me give you two examples of that. Sometimes being a lobbyist has its perks.
Mm-hmm.
I was an Army reservist at a time when the Illinois Unemployment Security Agency was going to dock me for my reservist pay. Now, I could play a game and put half of it on Saturday, which I'm allowed to do, and half it on Sunday. All right? But that's a lot of calculating, whatever. And I went to a friend of mine in the legislature and said, hey, is this fair? I'm a construction guy. I get laid off, but I signed a 6-year commitment to be in the reserves. Why am I penalized on my unemployment? And we took that and we changed the law. I turned around on another time and I had bought a military truck. And I found out that the state of Illinois was going to tax me via a license plate as if it was a commercial truck. And all I was going to do is ride around, do a few parades, whatever. So I went to a friend, another legislative friend, Senator Mike Jacobs, said, hey, Mike. And I wrote a bill. And we had a sit down, got to a point where we had to have a sit down with IDOT. No tracked vehicles. Okay. I'm not going to plan on running an APC down the street. And we went from 2 classifications to 4. But because I had an interest, I did that. The third instance was I was sitting on a picket line in the middle of January in Buffalo Grove, and the cops threw us off the right of way. Told us we couldn't have our cars out there, middle of January. Okay, sat down with a pen and pencil in my Carhartts. You might not know what those are, Joe, but in my insulated car, and I'm sitting there writing. My buddy goes, "What are you doing? This shit ain't gonna happen again." And I wrote a bill that protected our right to picket and keep us on the right of way, and gave us attorney's fees and then some. You know who held that bill up for 2 years? The Democrats. The Democratic Senate President, Emil Jones, held that bill up for 2 years. And I finally pushed the envelope when I had a Republican sponsor who was running for Congress. And they lost their mind. Because they're like, I'm like, we're gonna ask for a vote. The committee chairman came off diocese. Todd, we're not gonna. Said, well, Gary, then all the Republicans are gonna raise a point of order, and you're gonna have to argue and debate it. And you're going to have to explain why, when I got 50 labor leaders and lobbyists sitting in this room, you're not going to let our bill come up for a vote.
Yep. And Joe, you want to jump in on that? Because we about to start wrapping up. We got about probably.
You're muted, Joe.
I was going to ask you, were you you think about being a lobbyist, Corey?
Oh yes.
I don't see how you're going to have time. Are you going to quit your mobile truck stop service?
Almost fell for that, Joe.
Let me tell you,
it's going to make the budget tight, man. If you cut out that
almost
income.
fell for that. I almost fell for that one. If you don't know what Joe's talking about, I'll tell you later, Todd, because he just
drives.
You're not a lot lizard. I know that.
No, he's got a van. He didn't walk it. He's got a van.
All right, so let's start this. All right, let's go with our outros. Go ahead, Steve. Tell us, leave us with the last few words.
Well, what do you want to know? The Pledge of Allegiance? What?
Well,
just where to find me? I guess.
Where to find you? What you think about? What you want to talk to the people? Say to the people. But then also, where can you find a good burger at?
Well, I have a promo that teaches you how to do that. Actually, it always airs on Night Court, so that's you got to tune into Night Court to find out where the burger is.
It's the grand jury. It's not Night Court. It's the grand jury.
Oh my gosh! Sorry, I fall back to the old days, Joe.
You're right. We don't do the Night Court anymore, but it's the grand jury. But
yeah, grand jury.
The burger tips are there every Friday night. The burger tips are there.
It's true. Mm-hmm. So you can find me rangemindedpodcast.com. You can find me on X, Range-Minded on X. All the other socials, Range-Minded Podcast. Even on TikTok, where I probably shouldn't be. Actually, I'm hardly ever on there, so it doesn't really matter. Almost always on X, which is probably not healthy for my soul either. Again, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, anywhere free podcasts are sold. I'm there. If you like the sultry sound of my voice, you can find me.
All right.
Has anybody ever said that?
No, not even my wife.
All right, Joe. Then we're gonna go to Todd.
All right. Once, like I said earlier, I'm Joe Lanew. I do a live podcast every Friday night. I take 5 volunteers from the internet. We see them as a mock grand jury. We show them 5 police use of force cases. Show you the video. We give them 10 minutes, like a game show, to deliberate and just tell us quite simply, did they believe the force was reasonable or not? Tomorrow night, because of the 250th birthday of this great nation on the 4th, on Saturday, we're going to have a little different show. Myself, Jason, who's our longtime standing expert witness, Big Ron, Bruce, my producers, and Corey Brooks himself is going to take a night off from the truck stop. He's going to join us there as well. And we're going to they picked their favorite cases over the last 51 episodes. We're going to bring those up, and I think we've got some that are going to be very interesting. We're going to go back and kind of cut those up for a couple hours tomorrow night. But we'll be back with live jurors next week on the July 10th. Once again, I'm always looking for jurors. Corey, I'm about to load up a video that I'd like for you to play before we get out of here, just for folks to get to my YouTube channel. We're trying to grow on YouTube, folks. I need as many subscribers and watches there as I can over the next 30 days so I can get over this one tier and actually maybe make enough money to pay for the cost of doing this on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Incarcerated individuals' use of institutional telephones constitutes consent, and your calls may be provided to law enforcement agencies. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Yes, that is the grand jury. You can catch it every Friday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Todd, go ahead. Tell us the last
Well, first off, Joe, here's the killdozer.
Hang on, let me go screen big. Put it up again. Let me see it. I know that's where that come from. I like your little story though. I use bulldozers to make ranges. That's cute. That's cute, Todd.
He also levels the town before he starts the range.
Hey,
Yeah, well,
you just
all right,
you
so a
don't
couple
block his
things.
driveway to his range is what you don't do. Don't block the driveway.
Oh no, I have threatened one of the range rules at the club is you don't park on the range road, and I have threatened people more than once that if you don't move your car, I will move it with the bulldozer, and your insurance agent is going to like it.
But wasn't that the nexus to the killdozer that somehow they cut his access to his property off, and he said,
So
"No, I've had
the
enough."
story of Herbert Niemeyer is that they boxed him out, and you're right. They put a concrete plant around him, cut off his access for his muffler shop, and he spent the next 2 years buying this dozer and then armor plating it and jury rigging it. Yeah, there's a story about government gone wrong. Don't you know what? Don't push a principled man into a corner because you probably have a better chance of picking ticks off of Wolverine's balls.
Don't block his access. Moral of the story: don't block a man's access.
So, Todd Vandermeer, former NRA lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru, and Gun Santa on a couple of other forums. First off, I need Steve and Joe. I need your emails so I can send you some stuff and communicate. Look, I've known Corey for a while. He reached out to me. I am very, very appreciative of the opportunities. And Joe has been very gracious on his Twitter talks and everything that he lets me in and lets me speak. Dude, tell everybody, guys, I'm a bulldozer operator with nothing more than a high school diploma. But I have the ability is I'm so old. I remember Easy Rider on the electric company, which was who, Corey?
Which was who? I'm sorry. I'm
played
blank.
who played God and Bruce Almighty? Morgan Freeman.
Oh, Morgan Freeman. Yes,
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman was on the electric company.
Oh yeah. Easy Rider.
I remember electric company, but I don't remember it being.
Yeah. Sesame Street and the Electric Company is a communist plot to pacify the youth of America to make us weak and women-like.
Electric Company. I believed in Easy Rider, but you know what?
That's why I watched Rambo growing up.
Yeah, that got me into a list. So, hey, I agree with Joe. We have the most constitutionalist court we've ever had. We as individuals may not always agree with it, but I think they're right more often than they're not. And we can disagree about it. Difference is we disagree. We don't take to the streets and loot and burn. So
we do build bulldozers, though.
Hey, you know
There's
what?
those times, you know.
So let me just explain to you that with 300 acres and a bulldozer or an excavator and a suitable amount of plastic explosives, a cutting torch, and a bottle of Jack Daniels, there's not too many problems we can't solve. Really, guys. So
you're saying there is a line. There is a line.
There's a line, but can I solve the problem with all those above? Yeah. So I will ask this. I'm running for the NRA board again. I got on. I got a 1-year term. If you find my YouTube channel, if you find my Facebook stuff, I got petitions that need to be signed. I want to be out there. I think the NRA is a worthwhile organization. I think we have the right leadership to write the listing fiscal ship that we have. And me and a couple others are trying to make them the 2A juggernaut that they should be. So with that, but Corey, hey, Joe, it was great to finally see you in person and talk to you instead of talking to you from a cruise ship.
It's good to see you, Todd.
And I really appreciate it. I want to hook up with you offline about a few things. Steve, hey, whatever I can do and I got a couple ideas. And Corey, I really, really appreciate the opportunity.
Now, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all of you being here. It's not easy, giving up some time, 2 hours out your day and whatnot, because we all busy men and have lives, except for you because you're retired. And I'm glad
Want to come on and run a bulldozer for me? You want to drive a truck?
Yes. I would. Actually, I would. I would love to drive the bulldozer. I would love to do all that.
I mean, I'll take an excavator. A bulldozer, that's hard work right there. That thing will beat you to death. Give me an excavator. That's capital.
Then you ain't know how to run a bulldozer.
No, you're right. I don't. I can run an excavator, but I'm not a bulldozer guy.
We'll figure it out.
Pattern or John Deere pattern.
I'm gonna
come on out, Joe. I got a seat. I got a seat to put your ass in.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you come on up to Illinois.
Take you up on it. Ooh, I gotta come to Illinois. Ooh.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, you ought to drive up here just to see our range. Really.
Well, let's talk about it offline. I might have some time in the fall.
You know what? Come up for zombie shoot.
Oh yes.
Come up for zombie shoot. I'll get you a free ticket. You come up, hang out with me, and
I've sent my email to Corey. I hope he'll relay that to you. And my cell phone number is fine as well, Corey, if you want to do that.
I will give it to him. I'll give it to him.
I mean, you ought to see what we're building at the club right now. We're doing shit that
I'm gonna come out there.
So one thing is,
I'm going fishing.
We got a live fire shoot house. We got a DOD rated live fire shoot house. I mean, when Range Systems came out, and there are guys like, why am I going to the Aurora Sportsman's Club? And it's like, because we want to have a facility, because you know what it's like getting into a live fire shoot house? Difficult. If you're a civilian, so we built one so we can bring trainers in so our members can have the access to all that. We've had former
speaking my language now.
Huh?
I've run a couple of ranges, and so now we talk about running ranges. It softens my heart a little bit.
Well, yeah, you guys have ranges with lifters on them, so you have time exposed targets. They even have that in the civilian world.
No, we're just doing.
That's a shame.
Our shoot house is largely CQB.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it is fun teaching CQB to civilians, and everybody wants to go fast, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to dive in. We're going to do the cool shit.
And you learn the slowest, steady,
and then all of a sudden,
slow is fast, and how's it going?
Slow is fast,
smooth is fast.
Yeah, and so learn that in skydiving. But so here's the funny thing: everybody's a hot shot until Joe shows up and stacks up with a muzzle, live ammo, 6 inches from their ear. And then everybody understands that muzzle discipline and all that shit that we've been building on plays a deal. And I've sat there and I've run stacks and we talk about it. Can we go back to doing this dry? Because, but it's a thing between the SEALs and Delta that, Delta does a lot of live stuff. And it's like and I've trained under some Delta guys. There's nothing for that pucker factor. Do you trust the guy behind you?
All right.
I mean, So,
I gotta close
hey,
it out,
dude,
Todd.
you know, Corey,
gotta
let's
close
do
it,
this on
Todd.
another. Let's do this. But Joe, love all. Thank you very much. I love all you guys. It has been wonderful, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for being
It's been
here.
fun. I've enjoyed the
I
conversation.
appreciate it.
Yep. Let me close this out. This is what it's all about. People, you see, you get 4 men to come up here and have a good conversation, right? Even though sometimes Joe can be a little gay, it's all right, right? But the thing is, you got 4 men that can come up and talk about stuff that really makes an impact on your living, right? And I do want to play this for Joe before we get out. But if you are whining about or bitching about the law, right? If you don't know the law, how will you know how to change the law? You heard Todd talk about how he changed the law, how they tried to hold him, how they were trying to be oppressive, right? When government comes to put their mighty boot down, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and make a Facebook post about it? You're going to bitch about it? You're going to whine about it? You're going to cry about it? Or you're going to do something about it? Thank you all for coming in. We hit 151 tonight. Hopefully we keep on growing. If you liked it, the minions. If you liked it, if you liked the show,
stop gear. Truck stop gear.
If you liked it, like the show, share the show, discuss the show, and hopefully I'll see you on the show.
Hey folks, Joe Lanu here. Welcome to the Grand Jury, the live stream where we examine real police use of force incidents through the lens of a grand jury. Every week, we take 5 police encounters and examine them in detail. We review the body cam footage, the dash cam video, all to determine whether the force used was justified. We cut through the media spin, the emotions, and conflicting narratives to get to just the facts. No sacred cows, no filter, just honest, evidence-based analysis of what actually happened. But here's what makes the grand jury different. Every week, we select 5 volunteers straight from the internet and social media to serve as our official mock grand jury. They watch the footage with us, ask the tough questions, deliberate live, and help hand down the final verdict on whether the officer's actions were justified, just as a real grand jury would. If you want straight talk and real examination of police use of force cases instead of the usual bias, hit that subscribe button right now, turn on the notifications, and like this video. Drop a comment with the grand jury in one of the videos to put your name in the hat to be a juror. Get ready because the grand jury is in session and we need jurors just like you. I'm Joe Lanu, and we'll see you live on Friday.
They frame me in a picture, Sharpie horns on my head, every rumor like a scripture, they repeat what they were fed. Yeah, I'm walking through the whisper, let them burn me in their tails. I keep receipts in my ribcage, every scar, every DD. Call me the villain, paint me in black, blame every crack in your heart on my back. But when the curtain's falling and every mask is gone,